When I first walked into the building, I thought I had the wrong address. The front sign was hanging by one screw. The glass on the door had a spiderweb crack in the corner, and when I pushed it open, it let out the kind of groan you'd expect from a haunted house. Inside, dim fluorescent lights flickering overhead, a dead plant in the corner, and the smell, burnt coffee, damp paper, and old failure. Perfect. My name's Oliver Grand. I'm 35 and I fix broken things. Not relationships or air conditioners. Broken companies. I don't wear a suit, and I'm not the kind of consultant who builds a new slide deck and disappears. I roll up my sleeves, dive into the wreckage, and rebuild the damn ship while it's sinking. This one, it was already underwater. The company was supposed to specialize in custom high-precision parts. Tiny components for aerospace and medical equipment. Expensive stuff. Niche market. But what I saw didn't look anything like a place that once pulled in millions. There were 3 people left. That's all. Just 3. Before I even introduced myself, one of them, a guy in his 50s with oil-stained hands and a hollow stare, looked up from his desk and said, "You the auction guy? Here to haul off what's left." I dropped my bag beside an abandoned cubicle and smiled. Nah, I'm here to keep this place alive, or at least get its heart beating again. They didn't smile back. Honestly, I didn't expect them to. When people are used to sinking, they don't trust lifeboats. The first week was just observation. I walked the floor, looked at workflows, dug through dusty folders and ancient spreadsheets. The biggest issue wasn't incompetence. It was inertia. People have been doing the same inefficient things for so long. They didn't even realize how broken everything had become. There were layers of redundancy, wasted time, obsolete approvals, and a culture where everyone waited for permission, usually from people who had already been laid off. The few machines that still worked were good. Oh, but solid. The products they made were damn precise, almost surgical. The problem wasn't output. It was everything else. So I started cutting, simplifying, rewriting the entire process from order to invoice. No more printing labels manually. No more 6 signatures to approve a batch. I invested in compact, affordable systems, off-the-shelf automation, smart scheduling software, a clean CRM that actually worked. Within 4 months, the office started breathing again. We hired 6 new technicians, a logistics guy, and 2 engineers who were hungry enough to care. Orders started coming in, then reorders, then bulk orders. People who had stopped taking our calls were now waiting on our wait list. By year 2, we had grown to 50 employees. We're pushing $10 million in revenue, and most importantly, we were profitable, a rare thing in custom manufacturing. But here's the thing about turning a company around. It makes a lot of noise behind the scenes, and very little in public. And when it's too quiet, someone else will start speaking louder. Sometimes on your behalf. Sometimes instead of you. And that's how I met Bob. Bob was fine. The kind of guy who shows up, does half the job, and find a way to look busy the rest of the time. I hired Bob about a year into the rebuild. We were scaling fast, and I needed people, bodies. Honestly, he came recommended from a supplier and had decent experience in basic calibration and setup. On paper, he looked like a decent mid-level tech. In practice, he was background noise. Bob wasn't disaster. He didn't blow anything up. He followed checklists, handled a few tool adjustments, and always had some sarcastic one-liner ready at lunch. But if something broke unexpectedly, if a customer demanded a custom alteration, if we needed someone to run a pilot on a new process, Bob would quietly disappear. Not literally, but he'd always have just enough plausible excuses to avoid the heavy lifting. I didn't hate the guy, but I didn't trust him to hold a rope if I were hanging off a ledge either. As the company matured, the bar got higher. Everyone had to adapt, and most people rose to the challenge. Some became leaders. Some carved out specialties. Bob stayed exactly where he started. He'd been with us for 2 years when I finally pulled him into my office. It wasn't a surprise to either of us. "You know, I appreciate the work you've done," I said, "but the direction we're headed, it's not just about doing the tasks. It's about growing with the system. And you've kind of plateaued, man. Bob didn't argue. He leaned back, folded his arms, and gave me a half nod. So, what are you saying? I'm saying you've got 2 months. I'll give you space to interview. I'll be honest on your technical references. And if you need time off for calls, we'll work with that. But during that time, I need you to keep doing your part. No coasting. No drama. He didn't love it, but he didn't explode either. Fair enough, he muttered. Appreciate a heads up. And to his credit, Bob didn't go off the rails. He didn't sabotage anyone, didn't poison the team. He just kept his head down, did his job, and eventually slid out the door. A few weeks later, I heard he'd landed a job at one of our partner companies. A decent position. He didn't list me as a reference, which told me everything I needed to know. I moved on. We were hiring faster than ever. I had product meetings in 3 states and was negotiating a merger with a European firm. Bob? Just a name in a dusty HR file. But life's funny, because nearly 5 years later, I flew across the country to meet with that exact partner company. And guess who greeted me at the door? Yep, Bob. And that's when things got complicated. I shook his hand. He smiled like nothing ever happened. Then I heard Charlie speak and felt every muscle in my jaw clench. I wasn't expecting to see him there. It had been years since I left that company. The one I'd rebuilt from the ground up, where the printers didn't work, the lights buzzed overhead like dying insects, and morale was lower than the inventory. I'd turned that place into a functioning, profitable business. A real one. I was in California that day, visiting an old partner company. Routine check-in. I walked through the lobby, greeted by the usual half-smiles and espresso machines, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Well, long time, huh? I turned. Bob. Same voice, same posture. That trademark lazy confidence. Like the world owed him a little more than he was willing to work for. Hey, Bob, I said, keeping my tone flat. Didn't expect to see you here. He smiled and reached for a handshake, like we were old war buddies instead of what we really were. One of us a builder, the other a bystander with a good seat. He looked sharper, newer clothes, nicer haircut, but it didn't sit right on him, like he was borrowing someone else's life. I let it slide. For the moment, we walked into the meeting room with Charlie, the partner's managing director. A smart guy, well-meaning, a bit too quick to trust, but sharp enough to usually spot the real movers. Not this time. Man, we've always respected the turnaround you guys did, Charlie said, smiling at me. But honestly, when Bob joined our team, it all clicked. The systems he built, the lean process, he said it basically saved your company. He's got a brilliant mind. I don't remember blinking. My jaw locked up like rusted metal. I stared at Bob. He didn't flinch, just sat there, still riding the myth he clearly told himself every morning in the mirror. Charlie kept going. He said you helped with a few parts of it, but the main restructuring, that was all him. There it was, the lie, spoken so casually, worn like a second skin. I could have corrected him, could have pulled up records, emails, timestamp files. Hell, I could have handed Charlie a flash drive with the entire ops transformation on it, with Bob's contribution highlighted in blank space. But I didn't. I'm glad Bob found a place that values his contributions, I said instead, smiling like the comment hadn't stabbed me clean in the ribs. Charlie nodded. Bob sipped his coffee. And I just sat there, memorizing every word, every pause, every smug sip. I walked out of that building with my hands in my pockets, my thoughts burning. It wasn't about ego. It wasn't about getting credit. It was about truth and the quiet way it waits. They say lies travel faster, but truth knows how to wait for the right moment to speak. And Bob, he had no idea his moment was coming. The funny thing about karma, it never asks permission. It just knocks, usually when you least expect it. It had been months since I left the company. I was focusing on my new projects when out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. It was Simon, the new general manager and one of my closest friends. Hey, Oliver, got a minute? Simon's voice was upbeat, but there was something curious under it. Sure, Simon. What's going on? He hesitated a bit before diving in. We just got a job application, and it's from Bob. My heart sank a little. The name alone was enough to bring back memories. Simon laughed nervously. Yeah, that Bob. You know the one. I took a deep breath. What's he applying for? Some big role. A pretty prestigious one. I've been going through his resume, and I gotta say it sounds like he was the driving force behind the company turnaround. Claims he did all this crisis management and leadership stuff. I frowned. Simon, I don't want to burst your bubble, but Bob wasn't driving anything. He was there, sure, but the credit he's taking? That belongs to someone else. There was silence on the line for a moment. Simon finally said, Come on, Oliver, I'm sure you're exaggerating. Maybe he just didn't shine as brightly as you. I chuckled dryly. No exaggeration. I was the one who restructured the company from the ground up, cutting unnecessary steps, automating processes, bringing the team together. Bob? He was a guy who showed up, did just enough to get by, and found a way to look busy. He never led, never strategized. Simon was quiet again. I could almost hear the wheels turning. Okay, be honest. Did he ever contribute anything meaningful? Some technical stuff here and there, but nothing that moved the needle. When it came to responsibility, problem solving, creativity, he was absent. I even gave him a heads up that he needed to improve or find another job. Simon sighed deeply. Man, I had no idea. His resume paints a completely different picture. I took the opportunity to lay it all out. Look, Simon, I'm telling you this because I trust you. Bob's success story is a carefully constructed lie. If you hire him based on that, you're in for trouble. Simon was silent for a long moment. Then he finally said, Thanks for telling me the truth, Oliver. It means a lot. I smiled, relief flooding through me. I want the company to succeed and for the right people to get the credit they deserve. A few days passed. Then Simon called again. Oliver, just wanted to update you. We decided not to move forward with Bob. Thanks to you, we saw through the smoke and mirrors. I felt a calm satisfaction. Karma doesn't always act quickly, but when it does, it's a quiet, powerful thing. A few weeks after my last conversation with Simon, my phone buzzed again. Hey Oliver, it's Simon. Got a minute? Simon, yeah, what's going on? I asked, sensing something important. We just had an unexpected opening. It's a senior role, operations lead. Someone who can steer projects, manage a team, and really push growth. Honestly, I thought of you right away. I leaned back, considering. Sounds interesting. What's the catch? No cuts, Simon laughed. Just wanted to see if you're interested before we start looking elsewhere. You'd be perfect for it. All right, send me the details. I'll take a proper look. Simon's voice was warm. Great. Would love to have you back on board. Within days, I accepted the offer and started my new role. It felt like the right move, fresh challenges, new goals, and a chance to build something meaningful again. A few months in, I had to attend a meeting at a partner company. Walking through their shiny offices, I was focused on the task ahead, presenting, negotiating, closing deals. But then out of the corner of my eye, I caught a familiar figure. There he was, Bob, not in a fancy office or leading any big project, just hunched over an old computer in a cramped cubicle that seemed miles away from the big leagues. Our eyes met briefly. I gave him a small smile, calm, confident, no bitterness. Bob looked up, caught my gaze, and quickly looked away, clearly uncomfortable. I approached him quietly. Hey, Bob. He nodded, barely muttering. Hey! I kept it casual. How's it going? Fine, he said, avoiding eye contact. I smiled wider. Glad to see you're still in the game. He gave a short laugh. Yeah, something like that. I looked at him for a moment longer and said, You know, I hope this role works out for you. Bob shrugged, and before he could say anything else, I turned and walked away. Inside, I felt lighter than I had in years. Later, in the conference room, surrounded by executives, I sat down with my head held high. Simon's words echoed in my mind. You'd be perfect for this. I realized that success isn't about tearing others down. It's about rising above, letting your work speak, and keeping your integrity intact. Bob had his chance, and he chose the easy path. Me, I chose to build something real. And sometimes, the quietest victories are the sweetest.